With all this talk in this country about the anti-Semitism in the Mel Gibson movie, you know, I read all that. Well, the Jews had big noses. Well, you know what? The Jews do have big noses. Look at mine. I'm only half Jewish. If you're going to make a movie about, you know, the Jews in that time, place, Arabs have big noses too. Semitic peoples do. Okay, last week on their. But I mean, to be worried about anti-Semitism there, last week on the website of Saudi Arabia, it says very explicitly, no Jews can apply for a visa to Saudi Arabia. Okay, there's your anti-Semitism. That's what we call anti-Semitism.
You know, yeah, I have a point. Well, once again, I step back from this opera. I found a position for myself some time ago that gives me some detachment, and that is, when you're born in this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show, and in America you get a front row seat. It is my opinion that at the base of most of the evil in the world is religion of any kind. Religion of any kind. And that is at the floor. And everything has grown out of that, and the hatred among and between religions is an example. The number of people who have died in the name of God far exceeds any other purpose, such as political or national interest, that you can name, and generally they're mixed anyway. The religion is thrown into the national interest.
Sorry, George, I'm getting a ball game here on my...
Thank God it's live.
George, do you think we can tell the world that?
Well, I don't think it's necessary.
Does he speak true?
I don't think we have a job to teach or tell or do or direct or help. Helping is good if there's no strings attached. We've never done that. We've never done that. I frankly do not care about most of these things because if you step back and look at this from long historical perspective, it's a very interesting drama to watch. But I cannot get concerned about something this year, next year, 10 years from now, when 1,000 years from now they'll say, wasn't it interesting? Look what happened. It's out of our hands, and I personally don't care. And I like that position. I like that position because it frees me to be a commentator, if that's what I do some of the time, about these things, to have an emotionally detached distance from them and say, look at what they're doing. Look at what you're doing to yourselves. I mean, the people blame politicians. It's the voters. It's where they say, well, where do these politicians come from? Right. They come from American homes. They come from American churches and schools. It's just the best we have. It's all we can do here. Yeah. So watch it and enjoy it. Sit back. I don't vote personally. You know? Just personal point of view.
Can I say something?
I'm not enjoying it.
Can I say something as a foreigner? Because I think that this concern you raised, can you have democracy with Islam? And people are very worried about this religious fundamentalism. And yet, as a Canadian looking at the United States, I look at it, and I live here, and it's a wonderful country, and I'm deeply grateful for America's hospitality. But the salience of religion in public life here is much greater than it is in other mature democracies.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't think in Canada you could be prime minister if you were ever quoted as saying that you thought God wanted you to run, and you thought the jury was still out on evolution.
Right, I couldn't agree with that. Good point.
When I was a little girl, everything was closed on Sunday. It was very hard to get a divorce. Homosexual acts were illegal. I mean, all of those things have changed, but they all came from religious views. So I think the real key is, do you have any countervailing force to religious views, and do you have individual liberties and that kind of stuff?
What about the issue of degree? Because there are wonderful things about all religions, but we're not only talking about the fact that Islam is important, but that there are varieties of Islam, and they are powerful and often predominant ones, where, for example, over half of the population, i.e. women, are in a position that I don't think any of us here could countenance. So yes, it's true that religion plays a greater role, particularly in red America, you might say, than we often talk about. But what does religion do in different places? And I think that's something that we need to think about.
Well, I think it's really, I think you raise a really good point. I don't argue with you, and I think, you know, the extent to which Islam will be, or what kind of Islam would be reflected in their laws is interesting. I mean, there are also people who think that women should be in a secondary position in society, and they quote St. Paul, you know, wives, be subservient to your husbands. I mean, I'm with George on the religion thing. I think that it gets in the way of morality.
And it plays always on, what it really plays on is fear. Yeah. And that's what I think it has in common with politics. They both play on fear. And I think it's interesting that George Bush, for his entire time since 9/11, has been telling us, you know, if we let our lives be run by fear, then they win. But now that the campaign has started, I notice it's all about fear.